So, kicking off today is the National Conservatism Conference. Now, what is this NatCon conference, as we'll call it, just for ease from now on? But this whole NatCon conference is being organized by, well, not someone based here in the UK. It's being organized by an American group called the Edmund Burke Foundation. I believe that's how you say it. But they are very, very insistent that these are the new views, that this is what the Conservatives need to do, and it is very, 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 very culture war focused. Like I say, the MP next door, Miriam Cates from Penston Stockbridge, also going. Something else I really, really wish sort of the Barnsley Chronicle would certainly pick up on and start asking it. Yeah, why are you going to go to this conference? And by the way, while you were at that conference, you said this, this, and this. What does this actually mean? Probably will be very interesting for voters in Penistone and Stocksbridge to at least know about and pay attention to. But we're going to be talking about 3 of the statements of intent that they've put out on their website. Because I think these 3 statements, they tell you everything you really need to know about the direction of travel these people want to go. And you have to know this, that this is an attempt, it is very, very much an attempt to recreate what was essentially the Tea Party. And if you know anything about American politics over the past couple of years, then you know that the Tea Party was this outside, very much movement, this reactionary movement against Obama that has now infiltrated the Republican Party, and which ultimately led to Trump and wanting some incredibly weird, wacky, and wonderful stuff. Like I say, if they think that they can get that idea, that mode translated over into the UK, well, these 3 things, certainly they've got a lot of questions to ask and at least be restorative sort of about this. So let's go over these first things. So the first things that he goes on. So it talks about the disintegration of the family that gravely threatens the well-being and sustainability of democratic nations. And among these is the causes of an unrestrained individualism that regards children as a burden, while encouraging ever more radical reforms of sexual license and experimentation that is an alternative to the responsibilities of family and congregational life. So this is an incredibly, as we said at the beginning, an incredibly Christian focused narrative that they're trying to spell. And remember, if you know anything certainly about society, and certainly if you've ever sort of talked to Americans about sort of the subject of sex, very, very much they are very, 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 very repressed when it comes to, surprisingly so, when it comes to talking with this topic about this subject, even though it is very, very much prevalent on sort of on the TV because we consume sort of the same media. But when it comes to actually talking about it, there's a lot more prudishness that seems to take place between sort of, your Europeans and your Americans, very, very, very much so. And the idea that there has been this abdication and this pursuit of unconstrained individualism. Well, here's the thing. Most people don't want children for various reasons. Sometimes it can mainly be economic reasons that they don't want to do that. And that's fine. And it's funny that this movement of sort of conservatism, this libertarianism that we very often see, suddenly is disregarding the individualism. But no, you should have children. And of course, this will eventually, I really do see, feed in to them wanting to sort of push abortion bans here in the UK. And I'll tell you now, that will not fly. That will not fly at all. But as we said, because they succeeded so much in Roe v. Wade, we have seen a lot of, shall we say, dark money being poured into sort of UK politics to try and get this done here next. That's what they're coming for next, because they don't want Americans to look over and say, Oh, look at all that, that social health care. Look, they've got all these, free access to abortions. Why don't we have that? Well, they want to sort of come after us next, which is very, very worrying, which is also part why the National Conservative Conference also exists. So this is the next one. Very, 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 very strange, to be honest, to me, coming from, again, an atheist. So, second, the Bible should be read as the first among the sources of a shared Western civilization in schools and universities, as the rightful inheritance of believers and non-believers alike. So, first of all, if you want to sort of study sort of the Bible, there is that. We have RE in schools. We teach religious education. If you want to go and study that in university, there are degrees you can go and do in that particular field if you really want to. But why the fixation on the Bible? What about, we live in a very multicultural society in the UK. We've got Muslims, we've got Sikhs, we've got Hindus. There are Jews, there are Anglicans, Presbyterians. They do not all. First of all, you've got the different religions that don't agree that the Bible should be the primary main go-to source, and then you've got all the different sects of Christianity that exists that have widely different interpretations of the Bible and what the Bible says. So I'd be completely against viewing that as some sort of foundational document for a society. But it continues. So where a Christian majority exists, public life should be rooted in Christianity and its moral vision, which should be honored by the state and other institutions, both public and private. So that is essentially trying to institute what we've seen in America, a big push for Christian fascism. And I'll tell you now, that is not going to fly, because there is not a Christian majority in the UK. It is not this loud vocal majority that you see like in America. That is not going to translate well at all. I do not see how this translates to the UK. Doesn't seem to me to be something that many people in the UK are really going to sort of turn on to and say yes. Because again, what do you do about all the Muslims, the Sikhs, the Hindus, and even non-believers like myself who are like, no, why should we follow the beliefs of your made-up gods? And then finally, this is where we get interesting. The free market cannot be absolute. Okay, that's wildly different from what many of the free market libertarians that we've seen over the years, but there you go. So economic policy must serve the general welfare of the nation. Today's globalized markets allow hostile foreign powers to despoil America and other countries of their manufacturing capacity, weakening them economically and dividing them internally. So, first of all, the idea that what you want to bring in is sort of more an economic protectionism, protect sort of national industries. This current Conservative Party is not going to go for that. It's not going to go for that at all. But this is something that they want to try and certainly sell. But then how and where is all these areas of sort of workers' rights? Like I say, Americans and sort of these Republican Americans, certainly these Tea Party Americans that want to bring this nonsense over to the UK, aren't very too particularly hot on workers' rights and the such. So, yeah, there's a couple of big questions about this. And will this succeed in translating into British political life? I don't think so. They've tried desperately to try and translate the culture wars into sort of UK politics, and it really hasn't picked up, at least not to the extent as we've seen in America. And bear in mind, if you look at America at the moment, the culture war stuff has lost a lot of steam. Oh, it's still there, but when you look at, I think it was the recent elections, where you had Trump's candidates, his hand-picked candidates, running exclusively on culture war issues, something that they were saying was what people cared about, what people wanted. They didn't win. Not a single one won. Now, it's still obviously very prevalent and sort of talked about in America as a nice distraction. That's why I said before I don't bother with culture war nonsense, because it's just a distraction, really, from the real issues. But them trying to sort of Tea Partyize, I think the parts of the Conservative Party, or at least create this Tea Party movement with the Conservatives, I do not see this working. I do not see this working at all. This is really out of touch, I think, with what most people in the UK would really want. Even, I think, your average Conservative would turn around and say, what's this? No, absolutely no, thank you. To be honest. And I looked specifically out there. Are there any sort of conservative critics? And not surprisingly, there are conservative critics out there who've said, no, this seems absolutely ridiculous. What are you trying to sort of bring in to this? It's not, it's not concurrent with the current Conservative Party, the current train of thought. I do not see how this translates. I do not see how this works. I say I hope it doesn't, but I do not see sort of the British public sort of wanting this. But I agree with Tobias Ellwood. He very, very much criticizing both of these conferences that have taken place, not only over the weekend with the Conservative Democratic Organization, now this National Conservative Conference, basically saying, look, you're navel-gazing. You're trying to sort of already predetermined that we've lost, and you're now trying to flirt with these ideas to see how well they work with your own user base, to see if you can get a potential run at it. That's why a lot of people have said this is why Cyril Braverman, this is why Michael Gove are going to be at this National Conservative Conference today, giving headline speeches. I'll be very interested to see what Gove's speech is today. In fact, we might very well probably go over Gove's speech if that gets released, or at least we'll find out what we can, see if we can go over it, because that'll be very interesting to see what Michael Gove has to say about this and what he's saying at this conference, but we'll see. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button, and of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.